Postponed. That splits this video into two parts. First of all, why was the Liverpool game postponed? Secondly, let's have an honest conversation about where Liverpool are at and whether we're relieved or upset not to play Everton at this point in the season, evaluating both sides. First of all, Storm Dara has called the game off. It's this rain, which you've got to thank for all of that. And fair enough, like, it's difficult to get to games. It's not exactly ideal playing conditions. I'd love to know in the comments below which you guys think it would have benefited in some capacity. Like, would it have benefited Everton because they want to play a long ball, or would it have benefited the other way around, where it wouldn't have benefited Everton because they would have had like the long ball thing? Or would you want Trent Alexander-Arnold or whoever to play a long ball and then suddenly it's getting cut out in the middle? It's not exactly ideal, and I think there are a number of reasons why it's ideal and they're not ideal. First of all, why is it ideal? Well, I do think Everton will go into this game feeling quite strong. I do think Everton will go into this game feeling quite punchy. After the big win against Wolves midweek and the deflating result, potentially for us, that you could argue that Arne Slot in the past has dealt with potentially deflating results in quite a motivational manner, and actually I quite like the way he dealt with them, so fair enough. But at the same time, yeah, we did let in that goal at the very last minute. There were rumours, by the way, that Alisson would have started this game. Very late on, but there were rumours that Alisson would have started. I was kind of interested to see how that one would have gone. Obviously, Liverpool and Everton get no say over this. The whole reason that Goodison Park is, being moved away from is because it's a slightly older stadium. It's quite open as a stadium. It's also moved away because of geography and a whole number of other reasons. But it's not exactly, it's not this like big enclosed, like the new Tesco that Everton have got. It's old. It would have the ball might have even got blown away at some point. There is that genuine possibility the ball would have got blown away at some point. But at the same time, does it actually benefit us? If we'd have gone away to Everton and drawn that game, not that I'm trying to be negative, but I'm trying to, war game the scenarios here. What would have actually happened? Four points dropped, 2 points in 2 games. People would have begun to speak about a slip. They would have said Liverpool had been worked out by Everton, by Newcastle, the teams that really we probably least wanted to play. We were much more up for playing Man City and Real Madrid because we probably believe that actually we're more suited to play in those teams right now than we're actually suited to play in the others. But I do think there are other aspects to this. First of all, kicking the game down the road doesn't always work well. Sometimes you do want a recovery game. And as much as that recovery game now is being pushed onto Girona, it's more Champions League football. Again, Girona they're just outside the top 4. I think they're like 8th in La Liga at the moment, 7 points off the top 4. They're not exactly having a great season. But at the same time, that's kind of their FA Cup style game. They want to cause an upset in Europe, their ties to English football through whatever means. So there's a lot of things there. And then it kicks us on to again next weekend. We're going to be coming back to a home game against Fulham, but that's slightly different. So maybe it is more welcoming to come back to Anfield. Maybe it's good not to have 2 away games in a row, but obviously we wouldn't have travelled for this game, but you get my point. And then, of course, kicking that down the road means there is going to be fixture congestion later in the season, probably based on when we can play, not when Everton can play, because we have got the midweek fixtures, whereas they don't have so many midweek fixtures. Not as many. They might still have some. They might still be in some cup somewhere. But then there is the other aspect, a points gap, right? And a points gap is, obviously it shows the achievements of the team, but it's very much a mental thing, right? When you know that there is a 6-point gap and you know there is some form of pressure there because you're always 1 game behind, having to catch up. I'm assuming here that Arsenal and City's games don't get called off because these wins are still pretty strong. Though I did go out in them earlier, it didn't seem that bad in London, so maybe there's some London games I don't think is that bad. And especially in new, bigger, more modern stadiums, I don't think the wind is quite the factor that it probably would be at Goodison Park. So, whole other thing there. Storm Dara though, right? Good job. Really good job. If you're a Storm, you're proud of what you've done there. Having that gap widen and shrink, or shrink and then shrink. These are all mental aspects of being the chasing team and being the chased. Does it actually give Chelsea more of an outside chance of feeling like title contenders? Does it feel slightly distorted now to Liverpool fans? Do we even really care about that gap in the first place? A set of fans who at the beginning of the season maybe had an outside hope of challenging for the title if Arsenal dropped away in a similar way to the way they did at the start of the season, but Arsenal now coming back strong. And it leads me on to my second half of the conversation here. A lot of people talking about a weak league. I actually just think a lot of managers are taking time to find their new style, to adapt to the new rigours of the league, to adapt to what it is that's actually going on in the Premier League right now, football-wise, where we're going. I think Klopp and a couple of other guys saw the changes coming in the Premier League and thought, right, okay, is that really going to suit the way that I want to play? Is it going to suit the way that we're going to play moving forward? Possibly not, but let's see. Ultimately, I think I'm slightly grateful for it not being this weekend. First of all, another couple of days of recovery for someone else, another couple of days of training for whoever's going to play it right back, maybe a little bit longer for Trent to recover, a little bit longer for Alisson to recover, a little bit more time for the squad to just get cohesed again. And we're having an honest conversation, weirdly, after getting through those 10 games where we were kind of quietly confident but anxious at the same time to prove that this team actually had something. People were kind of biting their lips, sort of going, right, where are we actually at here? We got through that and there wasn't really time to celebrate. There wasn't really time to sort of go, okay, we actually made it through in a really competent way there against a number of really good sides. But I still think, like as a fan base, we didn't really know where we sat. And, obviously we can get over this idea of, we haven't played anyone good. We played a couple of decent sides, but let's face it, Madrid was a badge, City was a badge. There were nothing more than that in those games. Potential banana skins because they've got good technical players, but not actual challenges. Newcastle was a much bigger challenge. And I said it in my own review, it was a much bigger challenge to play a side who were more than up for it, a side who were very They were playing Liverpool in just the right way. They integrated into the way that they need to play very quickly, getting in between the back line and our midfield line, all those kind of things, making it really uncomfortable, making it horrible for us. And I really appreciate it. I think Eddie Howe found the perfect way to play us. And we said after those 10 games, there would be lots of observations and a lot of more data for the managers to make their tactics from. And Eddie Howe is very good at that. He's very good at going, right, they've done this, so we're going to do this. They attacked us, they got in between all the gaps they knew we had, and they broke those things down, where City and Madrid just were not able. Where City and Madrid turned backwards, they pushed forwards. And Everton will have known the same thing. Everton will have known Dwight McNeil, get the ball out there and push in. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, go into those channels, let someone play the ball through to you and take a wide shot against Kevin Kelleher, possibly against Alisson, but more Kevin Kelleher. Make these guys uncomfortable. In these kind of conditions, that's not what we want. Make Gomez uncomfortable, make Quansah uncomfortable. Of course, when Trent came on, it was good, but still, another couple of days for Konate to recover, another game where potentially we can play it with Konate ahead of a centre-back that is potentially second choice at this point. I'd always prefer that, even if it is later on in the season. And it means the opposite as well. It's a week where we could win a game on the weekend, we could win the midweek catch-up game against Everton, and that's on TV, and suddenly it's wow, look, what have we got here? And it's avoiding a 12:30 after a midweek game. I'm not exactly gutted about that. I'm kind of happy about it, to be honest. So yeah, there's all of those different factors. But let's have an honest, wider conversation. Kelleher made the mistake. I don't think he's a bad goalkeeper for that reason. Probably lesson learned. You very rarely make these mistakes more than once as a goalkeeper, especially as that didn't seem like a technical deficiency. It was much more of a decision-making thing. He possibly even got a shout to leave the ball late on from someone like Shah, and suddenly you're in a position where the ball's sailed over and, there's a player that got on the end of it. Incredible goal from an incredible angle. Incredibly fluky goal from an incredibly fluky angle. Anyway, the back line. Quansah and Joe Gomez lack confidence. Quansah lacks it because he got taken out at the start of the season. He's not really had much game time. Joe Gomez probably lacks it, even though he has played very well in those two games, because I think he knows that there is a bit of a change coming at Liverpool, and that with Quansah signing a new contract, with the old guard being moved out, and with Liverpool needing someone who possibly suits Slot's football slightly better, even though Joe Gomez has been fantastic, even though I've loved the decade that he's been at Liverpool, even though I think he's been fantastic at that time, Liverpool are going to be going through this squad and saying, where does the value come from? It comes from someone like Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez to Newcastle, Joe Gomez to this guy, 40, 50 million, and we can put 50 or whatever we want to put towards our next transfer. Fantastic. As a fan base, we're happy to see a player who comes in and feels very first team, even though Joe Gomez feels first team, even though Joe Gomez is first team. I can't emphasize enough how sometimes turning over a squad can change those things. And as harsh as that feels, as difficult as that is to move on from a previous era, it's a reality of where moving a squad on is. And frankly, a reality of Konate needing backup because of his injury record, but also because, at some point we're going to have to move Van Dijk on, and we might be able to sign someone who could go from that side to the other side and be a very nice backup to both Van Dijk and Konate and slowly work their way into the team. Equally so for the left-back position. At this point, I think a lot of people are looking at, do we keep Robbo, do we keep Tsimikas? I've been really impressed with Robbo as he's grown in fitness, but the real issue now is only really Robbo's fitness and his proficiency at left back while he's on the field. There are times where he's maybe playing people on side, he's given away a couple of penalties recently. I'd mark those more as aberrations than things that you would do every game, but they do seem to be signs of a player who is looking to catch up with the game rather than the game being something that he is playing. So that seems fair. I think that's fair as an evaluation. Bring someone else in who feels like more than an able deputy and is very much a next generation, I'll pick up the baton, because that's not what Tsimikas feels like at Liverpool right now. And I think we're in a good situation. Doesn't mean Tsimikas is a bad player. Doesn't mean we're not grateful for what he's done in this era. It just means we have to find someone who's going to be a proficient left back, because left backs and full backs in this league, or wing backs, whatever you want to call them, are so important. Midfield. We need another body in there. And it's very clear that Arne Slot has ideas, but he wants them executed in very specific ways. Yes, we may have taken our foot off the gas in terms of moving things forward more recently because we're very happy with where Gravenberch is. But we also know that Gravenberch looks quite tired and leggy in some of these games, as does McAllister. McAllister would have been out for this game. Now I think he's going to miss another different couple of games, so I'm fairly happy about that. I would probably rather have had him in this game than not. We would have needed to see Szoboszlai or Endo come in. I probably would have preferred Endo just because of his style. But, again, another game putting minutes on Szoboszlai's legs. Give us that break. Give us those couple of days as we go into this difficult Christmas period. I'd be much happier with that. And then up front, I saw Chiesa in the under-23s or under-21 game. I watched those limited highlights on Twitter. He didn't really look that mobile. He didn't really look like he was all that comfortable moving. He's clearly still regaining fitness from being normal, not being like mildly fit. He's been a normal person now for a while. And as good as he's been in that Liverpool shirt when he came on and the assist that he got in that first game, blah, 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 I don't think it's quite working out at this point. We would have had him in that 10 position. Great to have Harvey Elliott back. Great to see him coming on the field the other night. Kind of difficult to spot him without that hair, but it is what it is. Good to have that midfield rotation, right? But we want someone who's an out-and-out attacker, I think, and someone who can deputise for Mo, someone who can deputise for on the left, and someone who can potentially go through the middle and play as like a false 90 type 10 type figure behind Núñez, behind Gakpo, progress the ball where Núñez at the moment clearly can't, because it's just not Núñez's strength. There are times where he looks very good at distribution and distributing, but it's just, for me, I think the writing is on the wall with Núñez, not only within the fan base, but also within the club. And we're looking at a player now who probably knows that he's leaving Liverpool, I think, next summer. That's what the rumour... I've been speaking about this for a while now. I think he'd be the next person to leave. But a big, high-profile player to leave, that we choose to leave, not just a contract situation. But that's kind of my point here is, if we'd have had Chiesa instead of Jota, if Jota's out, then that's good. But he was never in that position. And he as much as he scored a goal in that game, and you might want to, back him or whatever. By the way, the edits that we all see are all Juventus fans editing those, so they probably edited the worst parts. I saw the end of the edit was like him getting a ball beyond someone and running around it. So, who knows? I think the guy is still fantastic just to be playing, considering the injuries he's had. So, yeah, there's that. And then on the left side, I'm really unbothered by that. I think Diaz and Gakpo are two world-class players right now who operate at a world-class level, score great goals. Maybe a little more output would be great in terms of goals, but assists, movement, everything else, I'm more than happy with that. It's really just the middle that I'm uncomfortable with. Chiesa, Núñez, Jota, too many injuries, too much inconsistency, not enough rotation able to go on in there to the point where Diaz and Gakpo have had to come on. Diaz much more being the guy who plays through the middle more recently, and that kind of false winger type scenario they've got going on. As much as I appreciate it, it's not first team or ideal for me for Liverpool. So let's just be honest. This injury, it's not an injury crisis, but injury malaise that we're possibly in at the moment, I don't think helps us. I think it's good to miss this Everton game this weekend. We're Liverpool, we want to play everyone, we don't fear anyone. Yeah, totally. But if you're being tactical, if you're being strategic, then sometimes it's good to get that break. Sometimes it's good that there was an early call made in the day. The players will all have had the WhatsApp group or wherever where they're informed. Go home, spend time with your families, even possibly come in and do a little bit of training, make sure that we still keep the consistency and do something. But those conditions on Merseyside, if I think they're bad in London, the conditions on Merseyside will be worse. The wind coming through, it's on the coast, the rain, the wind. I think Melwood at one point was unwindy, and now we've moved to AXA, it's really windy. So I think there's some trees put in there to stop that. They were training late the other day for this specific reason, I think. There's a lot of reasons to be grateful for this, but also, I'd love to see us do more. Difficult Christmas period we're about to go into. I'll talk about that later in another video, and I'm going to talk about the prolific nature of Salah after having watched Sky Sports' crazy debate this morning about Mo Salah. Appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who you would love to see coming in January. I didn't discuss the Zubimendi thing. I wanted to get onto that, but I'll do Zubi in another video. I think Zubimendi is still on our shopping list. Would he rather go to us or City? It's a real question. City are a very good outfit right now, and arguably he slots into their midfield instantly rather than in ours, but maybe he'd be promised a position, etc., etc. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you right here on Laurence McKenna channel, Patreon, and a Discord down there. Go hit it, get in there, talk to me about what you think would have happened in the game. Leave the score predictions if you think we would have played today, what would have happened, and I'll see you again on the channel later in the day. Much love. Bye.